Here. All right. Welcome back. We are the Four Horsemen podcast. Romine is out again. After he just blew up and said I was a horrible host. Always out.
Yeah.
This guy never shows up.
Yeah.
So I can tell you this one thing. You guys can count on me and count on the show being actually a good show.
This guy's the Andrew Luck of hosts. I'll tell you what.
So what I want to introduce to you first, though, is I've got Alex Vinny Stoner. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful, and I am here. I'm excited to be here.
Well, at least you are here. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I am here. Yes.
Yes. And Brent Ocker. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How are you? Brand new kid? Brand new little baby boy?
Yes. Brand new baby boy. So I am
Congratulations.
Newly father again for my second child. It's crazy to say now I have kids, instead of one child. So, but it's cool.
Yeah, that's terrifying to me. Like just the utter thought. Because I feel like then, I mean, granted, my situation is a little bit different, but like I would be outnumbered. I don't like that. I mean, now you're you're equal. Like
yes.
You're equal now. So
I got one daughter, one son.
Yeah.
Yep.
You've repopulated the planet. You're good.
Yes. So I've done my part and everything.
You've done your part.
So my son can carry on my name now. So I'm happy. Not as tired as last time, I'll tell you that. But I still am tired. But yeah, he's just excited. So let's move on to fantasy. I would have him on the show here to talk about fantasy.
Yeah, God. Get him to start doing something.
Well,
like
he was born
2 days old.
He was born on a Sunday. He was born on football. So he was born into football. So you know what that means.
Yeah, third, fourth string quarterback.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
ouch.
Brett. Wow, don't you talk about my son like that.
Hey.
You can talk about that.
This kid has an opportunity. This kid has an opportunity to be second string. Second string.
Wow. Yes.
He'll be better than his father.
Oh man.
So going into fantasy stock watch, let's get into some of the big names of players whose stock has literally changed because of the trade deadlines that came about. Let's start with first off, Jay Ajayi. What do you guys think? Stock up,
shocking.
Stock down?
Crazy.
Very shocking.
Yes.
Oh, when that came through, everyone just like their mouth dropped.
Oh, I mean, I was, and I'm just straight up and, not safe for work, but I was rock hard. I mean, I was so excited. I like the biggest problem that I have with this year's Eagles team was just they didn't have a runner. Like they had, like Bruiser in Blunt, but Smallwood wasn't really getting it done. Clement, even though I'm absolutely in love with him, like he wasn't really showing a whole lot. Like he was getting involved, but not enough. And this trade like solidifies that they now have a 3-down back that they can rely on, and a young 3-down back that they can rely on and build toward, a really good team.
Why do you guys think they made this trade? Like what? Like was Miami that desperate? Was like Philadelphia that desperate? What? Why do you think they made this trade?
Yeah, this is the best part of that trade is that it was for nothing. This is a guy that ran for 200 yards on a couple of separate occasions last year and was the starting core of a nice young Miami team, and they're just thrown in the towel. And honestly, I'm kind of shocked. Like I heard some rumors about work ethic and things like that. And I mean, I could kind of see that. It's a very undisciplined team. You can tell they're not really putting anything together. They've got so many great pieces, and they're just not doing anything with it. You've already got Jay Cutler, where his work ethic has been kind of questioned over the last few years. And then you've got, some wide receivers that have just needed somebody to throw them the ball. That's just a team that's just kind of in disarray right now. I'm not sure what to expect from Miami because I think a lot of us were pretty excited about that team, especially when Jay Cutler came in.
Yeah, Brent, what are your thoughts on it? Like, but with why do you think that this trade went down?
I just think we've heard a lot of rumblings about maybe he has this injury history with his knee. It might be a chronic knee issue, something like that too. And I think even through the draft process before they drafted Ajayi, like there were rumblings of that too with the injury history. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be that? And we'll see what happens. But Philadelphia had their checkup with him, and I mean he passed the physical and everything. They didn't see any serious issues with his knee, so they brought him in. Like, I mean, they didn't give up much for it.
Yeah, to me, like, I mean, you're looking at these guys. Yeah, let's say you basically got him for the price that it would have cost to get, like a I just lost it, Washington from Raiders. What's his first name? DeAndre Washington. Like, you're looking at a Devontae Booker. Like, these kind of guys that, like, came out of the fourth round that, like, are not that great. And you got a starter that is capable of going over 200 yards. That's incredible. I mean, as an Eagles fan, I couldn't be more happy because it's really it's win-win. There's nothing that is lost by this trade.
So before I move on to this, I want to say one thing. I think this trade smells of like there's behavioral issues or like they're wanting to get rid of him because the locker room, he was maybe a bad presence in the locker room or work ethic, or you got to remember last year they sat him, they inactivated him. He didn't start the first couple of games because of his attitude or something wrong with that. So this to me sounds like there was something going on a little bit more deep behind the scenes. Trade, that's why they gave a fourth for him. But that's not really necessarily concern us, or should it concern us with what's it do for his fantasy value going forward here?
I'd just be careful starting him this week too, because being in this new environment, I know we're about to talk to him about him soon, but Kelvin Benjamin was a healthy and active. You got to learn the playbook a little bit too. So I don't know how many snaps Jay Ajayi is actually gonna get this week. I don't know if he's gonna start, so he might be a slight risk if you're gonna put him in your lineup this week to start in fantasy.
Okay, Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Brent. This week is going to be a little tricky. However, I think that he's probably going to come in as a number 2. I think that you're going to also be looking at possibly, Blunt stealing some of the goal line carries and things like that, because that's really what they brought him in to be. So, I think that you'll have to kind of temper how much you think his touchdown value is going to be. So if you have, a little bit more of a structured point system that's more geared toward touchdowns, he's going to be a little bit of problem, I think. Yeah. Outside of that, I mean, after this week, I think it's going to be, pretty quick. I mean, running backs don't need to take as much time to get acclimated to a team, so it's not going to take very long.
So what I understand from you guys, after this week, he's a must start every week, or do you think that you want to see what they do with him first before you start him?
I don't see I don't see it being a problem, him being in that starting position anytime soon. But those other guys in Philly, they're not as talented all around as Jay Ajayi. So I would start him on a regular basis, but just temper your expectations in the early on, just because they do spread out that ball in that running game quite a bit. So just temper your expectations.
Okay. Yeah. Good deal. That moving on. So one guy you mentioned, Brent, Kelvin Benjamin, that trade happened late, almost last minute with the Buffalo Bills and the Carolina Panthers. What do you guys think about that trade?
I don't know if you value Kelvin Benjamin more going from Cam Newton to Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
He already had that rapport with Cam Newton, and even Cam Newton came out and said you just can't replace a guy like Kelvin Benjamin. So going forward, I don't for Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor needed weapons, especially in the passing game, and he's getting that big, tall guy, especially in the red zone. He's going to love that guy in the red zone.
I don't understand how this makes any sense for the Panthers. I mean, we're talking fantasy value here. I don't know what that does to the Panthers' values. Like, I'm happy with it for I think it helps out that the entire offense in Buffalo. I think it helps out McCoy. It's definitely going to help Zay Jones, give him a little breathing room to kind of develop into a decent wide receiver. I like the fact that it gives Jordan Matthews a chance to be in the slot again. I don't see where this is any value for the Panthers, and what have they done to the value of the rest of their players? Like, is really David Funchess really a number one? I think that really hurts. Devin Funchess, yeah.
David Funchess, no, he's not a number one.
No, I don't think that he is a number one. And as a matter of fact, I think this is actually going to hurt his value because he doesn't have that big body on the other side to take away the coverage. So I think that all of a sudden they went from a team that has pretty good wide receivers to a team that has very pedestrian wide receivers. And I don't know. I don't understand. This doesn't make any sense to me from the Panther side of things.
I think they were just trying to force feed Kelvin Benjamin a little too much, and he wasn't getting a lot of targets, but I mean,
was that a fat joke?
No, no, but good one. So I think what they're going to be doing in Carolina now is really emphasizing the run game. I think Cam Newton's going to be running it a lot more than what he was before. I think they're just going to open up the running game more and become this power run team with both their, I should say, talented running backs, but we know Jonathan Stewart can't tend to get the job done all the time. But I do think they're just going to move to this power run system.
But see, here's the problem that I have with that is that they don't have, like, they're not using McCaffrey as a runner. They're using him as like just kind of the little pass routes that like he can get into space.
Like a Reggie Bush, like we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. They're making him Reggie Bush, and so that makes all of a sudden you're telling me that they're going to use their quarterback as their running back. That sounds like a terrible idea. I mean, I know that's what he's done, but every year he gets older, and every year that becomes an issue. Every quarterback except for Michael Vick. Michael Vick is the exception to every rule in the book as far as running quarterbacks are concerned. But every year, McNabb got less and less, and McNabb and Cam are built very similar. They're big-bodied guys. They have a lot of power to them. But every year, he lost a step. And I can tell you, if they're going to move to something like that, I'd be very scared to have Cam Newton on my team because a knee injury is coming if that's what they're going to do with him.
All right. So as far as Kelvin Benjamin's stock particularly, do you guys think it could rise going to Buffalo? I know you're against Tyrod Taylor, Alex, but do you think this is a bump for his stock or not?
I don't think it's a bump for his stock, but I don't think it's really a knock for his stock either. I think it's almost a lateral move. Okay. Like, what do you think, Brent? Do you think it's a lateral move?
I do think it's lateral, if not maybe a slight dip, but I only say that because it's such a power run team in Buffalo. They love running the ball. So it may open up things a lot more since the running game works so well in Buffalo. It might open up a lot more for Kelvin Benjamin to be productive, but we will see going forward because right now I see it as that lateral move.
Yeah, 'cause he's only putting up I think the average for Tyrod is somewhere between 220 and 230. Like it's low 200s. So I don't know.
This does. Yeah, I think it's about lateral move too. I think that it could be a slight bump because we saw what Sammy Watkins could do when healthy in that system with it when they love to run the ball. So it may open up for Kelvin Benjamin, but we'll see going forward. So any other of notes for as fantasy stock watch goes, guys, that you have that you wanted to mention?
Well, the one thing that I was kind of wondering about is it faded in the ether pretty quickly. I don't know if there's really any Jimmy Garoppolo value right now, but if you were in a dynasty, is he worth stashing?
Yes. In dynasty, yes. If you have the bench spots, I think so. my reason why is Shanahan was pretty successful with Matt Ryan. But boy, that team is a lot worse than what a lot worse than what Falcons were. Sorry about that. A lot worse than what Falcons were. So so that's my only concern. You like to see if the offensive mind of Shanahan could do something with Garoppolo, but man, he's got, especially with Garcon now that this all might just happen, is going to be huge for that team.
And I think we just need to figure out right now too if Garoppolo is going to be an actually decent quarterback like we've seen, or is he a system guy? Like he's been playing behind Brady this whole time. I just don't know for sure if Garoppolo is the answer, but we're going to find out because it sounds like going forward, he's going to be the guy in San Francisco.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is, and this is kind of indicative of New England, like there's been a lot of backups to Brady, and those backups have gone on to do almost nothing. And so I have to temper my expectations to almost a wait and see type deal. I don't know if I want to waste a roster spot or not, just because there are no weapons in San Francisco, none whatsoever. And then you're also looking at the track record of backups coming out of New England. They get so little reps that, I mean, yeah, they look good in the system. And that, like, if they're a system quarterback, there's nobody from that system over in San Francisco. So I'm not sure if I buy too much into it right now.
Okay. Brent, do you have anybody that you think that's on the stuck watch?
What about the Miami backfield? I know Ajayi just left. Are you guys buying into Kenyon Drake or Damian Williams?
Alex, I'll let you answer this first.
I kind of think Damian Williams has shown more flashes of being a decent back. That being said, I honestly, at the beginning of last year, before they got Foster, I was looking at Drake as a possibility to take over that role. So he's going to be he's a good pass catching back. If he can get his between the tackles going, I think that Kenyon Drake has the most talent. But I think they really like Damian Williams, so I think it's going to be too muddy. Honestly, I don't know if I really want anything to do with it. They're so bad on passing right now that I don't think it even matters. Like they just don't know how to do anything right, and I don't understand what the problem is.
I honestly, I don't want anything. If I have a dynasty or a deep league where running back is like scarce, I'd maybe pick up Kenyon Drake or Damian Williams. But like, I don't want any part of the backfield. If Jay Ajayi couldn't run, in that backfield, who's to say that these guys are going to? I think Jay Ajayi was the best back of that backfield. So I don't know. That would scare me until that offense actually gets going. That offense is horrible.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few teams where you're almost looking at them as not even like teams like Cleveland, Miami. They're just teams that you look at and you just don't know where the points are going to come from. You don't know what is actually going to give you a lift this season. There can be a few players you can kind of stash away in a dynasty league, but if you're in it right now, you don't want anything to do with those teams. You want to get as far away from them as you possibly can.
I mean, we saw what Jay Ajayi did with Miami. Like, he's the much more talented back over Kenyon Drake and Damian Williams. And right now, like he was putting up 13 carries for 23-yard games. He was just I can understand if you want to roster them, if you're not deep at running back or something. I'm not starting either of those guys for anyone, but I understand if you want to roster them to, play it out, but the waiver wire came and went, and I did not pick up either guy. Not interested.
Nope.
I didn't even consider it, honestly.
Nope. Okay, so Do not want anything in the Miami backfield. So let's move on from Fantasy Stock Watch. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's go into another segment. Injury, injury after injury this year. So as we're recording this, we actually heard news of Deshaun Watson out for season, torn ACL, non-contact injury. Ooh, that is rough for a lot of fantasy owners out there because Deshaun Watson was a rising star in this league, and especially in fantasy, he was a rising star. A lot of people had picked him up later on the season, or if you were deeper drafts or 2 quarterback leagues or dynasty, drafted him early on. So going forward, we'll start with this injury first. What's this going to do for the fantasy landscape, and what can you do to replace him going forward?
That's rough. Deshaun, it's such a like a devastating injury. You never want to see that, especially for anybody. But I know this is a rising star, and it just sucks. For fantasy, I mean, you don't want anything to do with Tom Savage. You've seen what he's done in years past. Is he any better than Brock Osweiler? We're gonna find out, but I'm gonna say no.
So what does that do? He couldn't make it one game. He couldn't make it one game.
And who's his backup? We don't even know. But
oh my gosh,
we'll see what happens. Like I think it moves DeAndre Hopkins. His stock goes skyrocketing down. It just plummets. He's probably a wide receiver 2, if that now.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw how bad that offense was with Brock Osweiler and Tom Savage last year, even in the preseason, and it was not good. And DeAndre Hopkins, he needs fed the ball. I think it's bad for Lamar Miller. I think it's bad for Will Fuller. Like, I think you got to drop all those skill position guys down a tier almost.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree.
I would agree with that too, Brent. That just shakes the whole landscape. And me being a Deshaun Watson in our dynasty league, I had Aaron Rodgers and Andrew Luck, and I drafted Deshaun Watson, and so I lose Aaron Rodgers, and then now they just finally put Andrew Luck on IR. So now my quarterbacks that I have to roll with was Dak Prescott, which I'm happy with, but then I have Blake Bortles and Eli Manning.
Yuck.
Studs.
Yuck.
Yeah, each week you have to debate, are you going to throw more pick sixes or actual touchdowns?
That's what I have to go into. It's not a good feeling. So I agree with that, with all that across the board. I think all those players take a step down with him being out because that's how big of a factor I think Deshaun Watson was to that team.
VC?
Yes.
I've got a question actually directed at you.
Yes.
As a Watson owner, is it concerning to you that he had a non-contact injury? I mean, like those, like RG3, going all the way back, McNabb, those guys that are like supposed to be nimble on their feet, running out of bounds, this is practice. Like, there's no reason that anybody should tear an ACL as a quarterback in practice. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's got to be scary. Like, the fact that it's that easy for him to tear an ACL, that's, I don't know. That is kind of terrifying.
That is very terrifying. I almost don't want to know what happened in practice to cause him that. Because there's been several cases of people tearing their ACL on non-contact, and they just tear their ACL, and we've seen him come bouncing back with it being a quarterback.
Why is he even practicing that hard? It's against the Colts this week. Come on. Yeah. Like, you don't need to practice that hard.
Not that hard, especially with Malik Hooker is out with an ACL injury, so he's out. It's just it is not good to see that your quarterback who has a red shirt during practice, doesn't not supposed to be contacted, and so that is a little bit concerning. But one thing I have on my side, though, I think is his youth to be able to bounce back, and he's a quarterback. He's a quarterback, so he's a mobile quarterback, but he's been shown to prove that he can throw in the pocket. So but what was nice about that, he gains you with his legs. That's what's the upside of the fantasy value. But what I love seeing about him, though, is you didn't have to just really necessarily rely on his legs. I mean, he threw 4 touchdowns in his last game, over 400 yards. So you know that he can throw the ball. So as much as it's concerning, yes, I also am confident in him being quarterback. He doesn't have to necessarily run as hard as me as like a running back or a wide receiver who would make up, especially with wide receivers when they have to make cuts on their knees and stuff. And that's where you see a lot of non-contact injuries come with ACLs. So a little concerning, but I'm hopeful since he's so young that he can be able to bounce back.
Yeah,
It
just sucks about like that's the worst thing about you have him and Dalvin Cook, rookies that went out with like bad injuries, and you're just like, ugh. You want a whole season, like you don't want this to be like half a season and then you're really excited about them and then they just kind of suck the rest of their career.
Well, I mean, they build them way better nowadays, Your knee, it sucked. True. We're going to build it way better this time. It'll never happen again.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so moving on from that injury, going on to some other ones. I know this kind of happened a little bit long ago, but I kind of want to bring it up. I don't know if we ever talked about it. Aaron Rodgers' injury going down, obviously that's a huge hit too. Do you guys put any stock into Brett Huntley going forward? I know we didn't see much from him, and he just was on a bye week. But after that bye week and after those first couple weeks getting adjusted to the system, getting the first team reps, do you guys buy any stock into him going forward? Like, say if you did lose Deshaun Watson, could you maybe put stock in Brett Huntley, or do you think no?
I just feel like he has zero value in the passing game with all those passing weapons, and it just makes zero sense. He's a very mobile quarterback, but his intuition and instincts are just terrible.
Okay, I got it. Him or Brock?
I'd rather go him.
I would probably rather go with Huntley. I mean, they're all in the bottom like 6 starting quarterbacks in fantasy. I think though
in most leagues, you aren't going to have to dip that far down.
Well, see, and I went to the waiver wire searching for a quarterback, and I'm looking at Brock Osweiler, Brett Huntley, and I saw Jacoby Brissett. I'm like, okay, I'd rather have Jacoby Brissett, even though he's on the Colts, and the Colts right now are horrible. I'm thinking I want Jacoby Brissett, but then I'm like, okay, I saw Eli Manning. He's got no weapons, but I don't know.
Yeah, but you're also talking about a 2-quarterback league.
Yes.
So that's a little bit different. Like most leagues are just 1 quarterback. So
yeah, if it's a 1-quarterback league, you should not own Brett Huntley.
No.
Yeah.
No. Any way, shape, or form. In a 2-quarterback league, you probably shouldn't know.
No.
Gross. Yes. Do you guys have any other injuries that have shaped the fantasy landscape going forward or who we should be looking out for since these injuries have popped up?
Well, also just as the podcast started, Pierre Garçon went down with he got sent to IR, and he's out for season now. They even said that they're not planning on bringing him back, not eligible to return. So once again, San Francisco is a fantasy wasteland, but there is something to be said. Like there's Marquise Goodwin. He's put up some big games this year. You've got Trent Taylor, who's kind of like a Julian Edelman type player, who's a good PPR player. So there's options there in the passing game that you may be able to attain on a big bye week. But really, there's nothing much going on there. Pierre Garçon out for season, drop him, get someone else.
Yeah, and even though he put sometimes during the during the matchups, he did put up wide receiver ones. I think going forward, you don't want anything of the San Francisco 49ers. Even with Jimmy Garoppolo coming in, there's not enough talent around there. I guess,
okay, in regards to that, dynasty-wise, would you choose to keep Pierre Garçon on your dynasty team going forward? He's kind of getting up there in age too.
I wouldn't. Here's the one thing that I was going to say about this injury is that you had 2 camps of people, and I mean honestly, I think we were kind of split down the middle a little bit. I was completely against anything to do with him, and then a couple of you were like, well, look at his PPR numbers, which I mean is a valid point. Like he has been consistently a PPR guy. And so you drafted him kind of to be kind of a Crabtree or an Edelman kind of guy that was going to get a lot of catches and stuff like that. And so it's a big hit for those teams. And I don't think that there's not really anything that you can go out on the waiver wire and just like obtain that's going to be that. That being said, like, I don't know what direction San Francisco is going. So I don't think that he's a great stash for any kind of dynasty situation because they're going to be rebuilding that whole team. And so I don't even know if he's going to be a part of that rebuild, to be completely honest.
Do you think, speaking of 49ers, do you think Carlos Hyde's going to be there next year?
I don't think so.
No, probably not. He just doesn't seem like he's over. Yeah, I don't think he's just not in their plans.
Do you in Dynasty or probably Dynasty is really working. Do you try trading for Carlos Hyde for the future?
I kind of would. I'd like to see where he goes because he's not a bad running back. He's just been plagued by injuries and coaching.
Yeah. Okay. You could get him for cheap. Yeah. If you have the space, he wouldn't be a bad stash just to see what happens.
Okay. All right, let's move forward. Let's go off the injuries and let's go to some of our what we like to call rising rosters. So we're going to go position by position and just talk about these players that we think that are on the rise, and then we're going to let you kind of know what we think of them for standard and dynasty, and just kind of go from there. Let's start off the quarterback position. We did have Deshaun Watson on this list.
Rising star.
He is a rising star. I guess I know we kind of talked about him before, but let's kind of see. We didn't talk about what we should do with him going forward. We just talked about what his replacement or what it would do for other players. Let's talk about him specifically. What does it do for him? I know with his injury it hurts. What are we wanting to do with him going forward? What you guys saw out of him? Do you guys want to keep him? Do we want to trade him? Do we cut him? What do you guys want to do with him?
Clearly redraft, you drop him, but dynasty purposes, you got to keep him. The guy showed so much upside. Like there's a lot of quarterbacks that come into this league and they can barely get over 150, 200 passing yards in one game. Yeah. They can barely throw 8 completions in a game. And you worry about that fantasy-wise because you never want to have him on your team. Deshaun Watson clearly showed he has a floor. And he has a massive ceiling, massive. Like we've seen Russell Wilson be a mobile quarterback and throw for 400+ yards. Well, that is what Deshaun Watson was doing. He almost did that he did that in his last game, and he's getting over 300 yards, and he's had 5 touchdown games. Like you gotta love that, especially for dynasty. That's why I love what I've seen from Deshaun Watson. It's so tragic that this injury happened.
And that's the thing is that his floor was Biskey's ceiling. Like that's the problem. And so you're looking at this and you're like, oh, this sucks. But here's the thing is that, I would say that you could trade him, but do you really want, you're not going to get the value that he's worth. So you might as well stash him and see what happens next year. I think that he'll be available week 1. I don't think that that's going to be an issue. I think that it's right around the perfect spot where, he's going to rehab. He's young. It'll be okay. So
do you think he's going to be drafted maybe next year as a top 5 quarterback?
I don't think that he's going to be drafted that way, but I think that he could finish that way. Legitimately. Look at those numbers, and look. Not only it's not just the numbers. Look at the personnel that's around him. Yep. Like the personnel that if they could get a really good running game going, that team is unstoppable. Like they're now kind of getting into this plagued by injuries thing. Your number 1 guy on your offense just went down, and your number 1 guy on defense has gone down, and if all of that comes together, that's going to be a 12-win team. That's a team that you don't want to face. And so it's going to be interesting if they can get a solid non-injury filled season next year. That team is going to be impossible to game plan for it. And I think that they are going to have to address the running back. I think, like I'm just saying it now, Lamar Miller, not the answer. We've been saying it year after year. Oh, this will be the year. Oh, this is the reason why. No, he's not that good. He just isn't. And we have to just put that to bed. Now, is Foreman possibly the answer? I'm not sure. But I definitely think they need to address the running back situation. But going back to the point, I think Deshaun Watson, you're holding on to him because he does have that ability, and there is the chance that he could be a top performer in quarterbacks.
I would agree with all what you guys said. I like that. Okay, let's go from Watson, who's rising rookie of the year, I think, to the darling of the season, Carson Wentz.
Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead.
Hold on. You might want to give Alex some time because he's a little more excited. We'll call it that.
Oh my goodness, Carson, I wish that you would listen to this podcast because I usually hate white quarterbacks. I usually do. I mean, I don't want to make this a race thing, but it's true. I've hated it's just like it's always a boring quarterback. I mean, like Ty and Coy Detmer, and I mean Jeff Garcia was okay, but gosh,
Cobb.
Don't even start. Don't even start with Cobb. My gosh, I love you so much, Carson Wentz. I just do. I mean, the guy is just unstoppable. He's gonna be in a conversation with like Aaron Rodgers and Andrew Luck for the foreseeable future. I mean, I thought that he was good, but he is just unloading right now, and he just looks unbelievable. The way he escapes sacks is just like he's not a runner, but he just pops out. I mean, he looks so good. Oh my gosh, I have the biggest man crush. I can't even tell you. I'm so excited about him.
Yeah, definitely. From where you got him in drafts, especially, you got him as one of your last round picks.
Yeah, you did.
And that happened last year too. Matt Ryan was one of those late round quarterbacks taken, and he ended up putting up the most fantasy points for quarterbacks last year.
Yeah.
So once again, Carson Wentz. Every year you can wait on quarterback in drafts, and this is the reason why.
On quarterback.
You can hit on some of these guys. Matthew Stafford, even. Matthew Stafford's putting up big numbers too. So, yeah, Carson Wentz, love it because he's only in his second year. So you don't even know if you've seen his ceiling yet. Yeah. The guy just keeps improving. Back when he originally got drafted by Philly, they were comparing him like he was the most comparable to Andrew Luck in the draft process. Is what they said. The most quarterback ready to come in and just take over a game. And we are seeing that this year. And I love it for fantasy purposes. I'm an owner of Carson Wentz in multiple leagues, and it's panning out for me even.
Yeah, I'm so upset that I don't have him. Like you drafted him right before I was going to last year. I'm so upset.
Be jealous.
It's exciting to see especially a quarterback from where he came from to now where he's at and how good he is. It's exciting to see. It's good for the league. It's good for fantasy. I think so. Dynasty, obviously, you're keeping him. Keeper leagues, he's maybe a possible keeper. If you don't have maybe a good running back or a top wide receiver, but
especially for like late round replacement for keepers and stuff like that.
If you're
taking up like a 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th round draft pick, get your possibly a number one quarterback in the draft.
I think going forward in standard leagues, PPR leagues, any leagues that you have him in, he is a starter, a top 5 starter every week going forward, no matter the matchups.
And Ajayi is going to help him.
Ajayi is going to only help him. You know, they're going to have Blunt and Ajayi. I think that's only going to help the run game. He has a better offensive line, I think, than Miami to run behind. So
what's crazy about that is that there's, I mean, I'm assuming you guys know, but I mean, they lost Jason Peters for the year, and it's like it didn't even happen. Which, granted, like I think that the Jason Peters thing for the last couple of years, like people talk him up as like this amazing. He's been okay the last couple of years. He hasn't been amazing, but I mean, like he went down and nothing. It hasn't really hurt the team. Now, if Lane Johnson goes down, that always ends up screwing everything up. So he just needs to not do anything stupid and not get busted for steroids or whatever. But you know, like I think that's another thing is that the team is quietly very deep. So you know, this is a team that's on the rise, and I think they're only going to get better. And so you kind of want to get as much as you can of Philadelphia right now. You want to get as many pieces of, you know, like, you know, you want Wentz, you want Ajayi, you know, you're even looking at Aguilar and kind of, you know, you're definitely looking at Ertz. That whole team is just over the last couple of years has turned into a juggernaut fantasy wise, where they were kind of a wasteland. So, I mean, I love it, but you know.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
Yep. All right, let's move on to our darling, to somebody would I would call him a dark horse candidate, and some that this left him for dead. Alex Smith. What are we doing with this guy?
I think he just got pissed. I think he's playing
That's
pissed.
exactly what it is. He's taken more chances. He's taken more risks. He's always been known to not do those things, and he's always been that mediocrity of the quarterback position.
Yeah.
You know, he provides you a good floor with his legs, but now he's proving that he has a ceiling and an upside. He's putting up 350-yard games, which he had never gone over 300, it seemed, in the previous, 6, 7, 8 years prior?
At the beginning of this season, he'd only gone over 300 6 times in his career.
That's crazy, and I think he's already met that this year.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I think he's a top 3 or maybe 4 quarterback in most leagues, standard PPR.
Yeah.
Like, the guy's just throwing touchdown passes, and they have a solid run game, which is really helping him out too. Kareem Hunt's just been crazy good.
Yeah.
So everything's working, and he really doesn't have that much talent to throw to other than Kelsey and Tyreek Hill, which
and Kelsey, I mean, really hadn't been that great until I think this past week.
No, he's been pretty solid all year long. He's kind of in every other game.
Was it? I kind of thought that his numbers were a little lame.
Yeah.
Well, I think his touchdowns are down comparative to last year. But he's been getting the yardage as far as I know. Right, Brent? Because you're an owner of him.
He's doing pretty well. He's a kind of an every other game kind of player, but he's
well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, he had 7 for 133 and a touchdown, but then 4 for 33 and a touchdown, 4 for 37. So, I mean, like, he's kind of I mean, that last game was amazing, but
I mean, his target share has just been crazy good, and the one really solid. He had one game where he had like 9 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown, and then got a concussion at halftime and didn't come back. So, I mean, even that game could have been humongous. But I like what Alex Smith is doing. I think his upside's there. He's an every week start. Like, you got to start him. That team is a good team. That offense is running very smoothly, and Alex Smith is taking chances. So it provides a huge ceiling for him.
Yep. So going forward, what are we doing with him? He's an every week start then in all leagues?
I'll tell you what I'm trying to do. I'd try to trade him.
Really?
Personally.
So even so, what are you trading him for then?
I don't know. You know, that's the thing is that you're kind of trying to find that person that overvalues quarterbacks.
So what about some?
You going to trade Alex Smith for Drew Brees?
No. See, I'm like, okay. I don't know. It depends on what I have. Now, if I'm starting Alex Smith, that means that I waited a really, really long time to get a quarterback. So my team might already be stacked, but with the amount of injuries, you got, Odell Beckham, you've got Dalvin
David
Cook,
Johnson.
you've got David Johnson. You've got all of these issues that maybe your best chip is Alex Smith. And in Dynasty, Alex Smith doesn't hold as much value just because he doesn't have as many years left. So, and the fact that they've got their heir apparent sitting right behind him. So if you can get the value out of him going crazy right now is the best time to sell him to get a player or a draft pick or something along those lines, because I don't think his value is going to get any higher than it is right now. So if he is on your team, I don't know. I think that I want to try to turn him into something.
I think you make an extra interesting case for Dynasty. Agree, Jeff. I just may sit tight on him.
Well, redraft. I'm sorry. I'm not talking about redraft. If you're in redraft, you're keeping him, obviously. Yeah, but I'm just talking about in Dynasty.
Unless you have
I don't know if you want to hang on to him.
Yeah, unless you need Alex Smith to trade for a wide receiver or running backs or something to kind of help your team, because you may be trying to make a playoff run or push to get into the playoffs or something. But if you have, just depends on it. But like I said, you may be stacked if you drafted Alex Smith or you picked him up off the waiver wire, and then been riding the hot hand for that.
Yeah.
Brent, do you have more to say on Alex Smith? What your thoughts, or you want to move on?
No, I like I said, I think he is, regardless of matchup, in every week start, just based on his upside. Sure. And the talent around him is just outproducing a lot of other fantasy teams right now. So I just like Alex Smith going forward.
Yep. Okay, let's move on to running backs. Here is actually a very, very big surprise, and one running back that people didn't even have on anybody's radar. Aaron Jones, the Green Bay Packers running back. He may have been some in dynasties, especially rookie drafts. I know for our league we have a rookie draft, and so he had been drafted, but he didn't get drafted until the late rounds of our rookie draft. So he wasn't very high on people's boards, and there was in the deep fantasy talks and stuff that he may be a deep sleeper. But he also had some competition to come up, Ty Montgomery and Jamal Williams. So, but luckily with, injuries, not luckily, I guess, but through injuries, he got an opportunity and he took it. What are you guys' thoughts on him?
I completely think Aaron Jones being this as good as he is was completely circumstantial. I think Ty Montgomery got hurt, and then Jamal Williams got hurt. Aaron Jones, next guy up, proves that he's capable of putting up these 100-yard games. Ty Montgomery wasn't. Jamal Williams wasn't. So they stuck with him, and it's worked. I think it's just completely circumstantial.
So you think if he was any other place where he got the opportunity to start, you don't think he would do as good of a job?
He might, but like I said, I don't think he would have gotten this opportunity without those injuries, though. So the fact that those injuries happen are the reason why he's actually proved that he is this good. And I'm not sure he would have gotten this opportunity had those injuries not happened.
See, I'm a little concerned, though, just because of the team that he's on, about how his consistency is going to be. I mean, they're not a team that runs very well. I don't know.
But they are running well.
But you guys, I think both of those points, they're going to be relying on the run this year because Aaron Rodgers is out. What's it going to look like next year then?
They're kind of like, they remind me a lot of the Bears right now, because they are just trying to take all the pressure off their quarterback situations. So they're running the ball down people's throats, in my mind. And I feel like that's what they're doing. And Jordan Howard's doing great. He's, getting tons of volume, which you love for fantasy. Aaron Jones is doing the same thing. And Ty Montgomery, he's kind of off the wayside now. And Jamal Williams, you don't even hear the name anymore. So I like Aaron Jones, his upside, because of the volume he's going to get. They're just trying to take the pressure off that passing game on both those teams.
I would agree. Alex, you have anything more to say to that?
No, it's just I think that you're going to continue to write it on as much as you can. Looking forward, I think that it's you just want to kind of temper your expectations because I don't know what they're going to do with that going forward in the next year. But for sure, right now, I mean, you're starting to look at your team, and if you one of your last picks, you ended up getting a starter out of it, then you're definitely happy.
Okay. Moving on then. Let's go to a person that people had high expectations going to season, and some people are off the train. But we kind of still like him. Joe Mixon. One of you just jump in. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, we've been saying since the beginning that you're not going to be getting the kind of production out of Joe Mixon that you were going to get out of Fournette going like in the beginning. You were drafting him as if you were in dynasty leagues, that's what you were drafting him for, was for years to come. I think that right now, flat out, all the cards on the table, they have terrible coaching, and all of them need to go before he's going to be successful. Flat out.
They need a better offensive line, in my opinion. Coaching too, but their offensive line is atrocious. They can protect Andy Dalton, but they just cannot open up a running lane to save their life. I think he's had at least 15 to 20 touches here in each of the last probably 5 or 6 weeks. And he's just not doing anything in the run game. But, I know he took a screen almost to the house for 60, 70 yards against the Colts last week.
That was pretty.
But, you got to get this guy in space, and Cincinnati's just not doing it. I still think he's a buy low candidate. He hasn't reached a high candidate yet, so you could still buy him low. He's still getting touches each game. He's not theoretically starting because Jeremy Hill's the starter. But Jeremy Hill still gets only 3 to 4 carries a game. So definitely try and pick up Mixon if you can. I think days are better going forward.
I think so too. I think you have to buy low on this in Dynasty. I think redrafts, I don't think you'll be able to trade him. I don't know. I'm kind of on a hold for him this year as far as in redraft goes. But Dynasty, I definitely want to buy low as much as I can of him. I think they need to scrap the coaching staff for him. I think they need to upgrade that offensive line because that's really hurting him. It's not creating some of those spaces that he needs. It's hard. It's hard with that. So let's move on. Let's go to Marlon Mack. This guy every week has been putting up numbers, but the Colts keep saying they're going to keep limiting his touches. He's not going to be a featured back. They don't think he's ready to be a featured back, but they want to get him in a little bit more. But
I think that's starting to change, though. I do think it's starting to change. Frank Gore looked pretty decent last game, but they gave Marlon Mack more snaps than Frank Gore. So the way I see it, and this is just the eyeball test, Frank Gore, he's not doing bad. He just looks slow and old. Then they give Marlon Mack the ball, and it's like a bullet out of a gun. But I don't know if that's because I just keep watching Frank Gore in the slow process, and then all of a sudden Marlon Mack is just shot out like a cannon. And it's so awesome to see because I don't even think defenses are ready for it because they're used to the slow running back, and then you give Marlon Mack the ball, and they can't catch him.
To be completely honest, this is the first Indianapolis running back that I've actually thought could be good in a long time. I mean, I'm talking Edgerrin James long time. I remember, I'll always remember this. Brent, when you and I were watching that draft, I think it was 2006, whatever year that Joseph Adai got drafted.
I think 2006 or 2007.
Yeah. And I just remember, that guy looks like garbage. And you're just like, yep. We were just sitting there. We were like, this guy's great. And he had that one big season where he looked amazing. But I don't know. There's just something about Marlon Mack that really does kind of get me excited about their running game for the first time in a really, really long time. So I really hope that is a direction that, and let's face it, a direction that the new coaching staff will go because they're going to scrap their coaching staff. I mean, it's not good. and it hasn't been good, and we all kind of know the reason why he's still there. But
Yep.
I mean, it needs to be handled, and I think that they need to shift over and get a new kind of culture and thought process into that team, and hopefully Marlon Mack is a part of those plans.
Yep. I sure hope so too.
I mean, they invested a 4th-round pick in him, so I mean, 4th-round pick, running back, it makes sense. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on to the wide receivers. Juju Schuster-Smith.
Smith-Schuster.
Smith-Schuster, what I said, blew up this past week. And he nobody was expecting it. Some people may have started him if you're in a deep leagues. Good job for you. Or in Dynasty. So, this guy, what do you guys think?
He's looked good. I mean, legitimately, and I hate USC wide receivers, but like this year, I've gotten 2 of them that have like actually looked really good, and he's been good out of the gate. You know, Aguilar, it took 3 seasons, but I mean, Schuster just looks great. I actually enjoy when he gets the ball. He makes nice moves. He runs really clean routes. He just looks great, and so he's one of those guys that I'm looking at, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking the number 2 in Pittsburgh is always so problematic. And you know, it just, you don't know, not only do you not know how they're going to do, you don't even know if they're going to be on the team the next year. They have a tendency to ship those guys out or not re-sign them, or, you know, and for whatever reason, they always end up being disgruntled. Bryant is already disgruntled.
Yeah, Mike Wallace, and then it was Santonio Holmes. Is that right?
Yep. I think it was
Martavis Bryant now.
Yeah, and like it's every single year. It seems like that there's every few years there's a next man up thing with their number 2. I mean, there was Hines Ward, and that's when, you know, like some of those things were happening, and then now it's Antonio Brown, and the same thing. It's like, it's very strange how that's going on, but yeah, I mean, I love him. And, you know, he's a rookie, so you probably have a couple of years before he gets disgruntled and wants to leave town. But, you know, I would love to have him on my dynasty team.
Yeah, he's looking so good right now. And because of the Martavis Bryant news, and you don't know if he's going to be back to the team. You don't know if he's going to be a part of their plans going forward. But you got to like what you see from Juju. He just keeps getting better every single game. And Antonio Brown, he's a big name, so he's going to be drawing a lot of that coverage away. So you may look forward to bigger games like this for Juju going forward too.
Did you guys expect these big games?
I would not expect it. No.
I would say I would not either, just because I think that with Antonio Brown there, he's going to get his, and he's going to demand that he gets his. That's what I'm only afraid of.
Yeah, and Juju. Ben Roethlisberger's too inconsistent. Throws makes a lot of dumb throws and doesn't play well on the road. But I would not expect that on a consistent basis from Juju.
Yeah. So let's move on to another wide receiver that we want to talk about. Let's go with Will Fuller. We had high expectations, especially with Deshaun Watson in there, getting touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. All he does is just score touchdowns.
That's all he does.
Now without Deshaun Watson, okay. So let's do the hypothetical. This year it may not go so well. But let's also look at the future going forward. What do we think about this guy?
They have probably the best 1-2 punch I have seen in a long time. I mean, you've got 2 big, fast guys on the outside. Like, you don't usually have 2 guys that have like the same talent and skill set, and it's like the best talent skill set you can have. And like, there's a. It's just, it blows my mind that they have that much speed and height that, you know, oh man, I love both of those guys. I hate what has now happened to them. because they're I think, Hopkins is, we kind of said that he drops down an entire tier. I think Will Fuller drops down another tier to a point that you don't even know if you should start him. I probably wouldn't start him. Like, even though he's going against the Colts, I probably wouldn't start him.
Yeah,
because I have no idea
option at this point. I mean, he's got the speed, he's got the playmaking ability. Yeah, he's got some trouble catching the ball sometimes, but you gotta love what they were doing with him. Like, they were getting him in space and catching deep balls, and he was proving to be a good wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 option for you on a weekly basis, especially with his touchdown upside. So I don't like what happened, and yeah, I mean, he's barely flex worthy at this point now because you don't know what that passing game is going to be like. So wait and see right now. Dynasty wise, you still want to hold on to him because he is such a talented playmaker. Maybe trade him, see what you can get out of him. But yeah, right now going forward, not much more than a flex.
Yeah,
he was a rising roster star before today.
Yep. Okay. Let's go with one more wide receiver. Let's go with Adam Thielen. This is a guy that I know some of you have been like, oh, he's just a big numbers guy. You don't look at his end of his stats. End of the year numbers are just inflated. But you've got to be impressed with what you've seen this year. What are we doing with this guy going forward?
I like him. Adam Thielen, he's actually leading. He's like a top 4 wide receiver in yards this year thus far. And I think that's great for Minnesota on a team where you wouldn't have thought that they would be one of the best passing teams in the league going into the season. But Sam Bradford even got hurt, their starting quarterback, and Case Keenum's proved that he has a rapport with Adam Thielen, and with Diggs hurt, it really helped Adam Thielen's stock value. But I think that offense actually has sustainability with Diggs and Thielen. You can start both those guys on a weekly basis. Diggs seems like the more wide receiver 1 playmaker type of player, and then Adam Thielen actually seems more like the possession guy, where he might get those 7 for 70 and a touchdown kind of games.
Yeah, and the one issue that I have with Thielen, and honestly the entire passing offense for Minnesota, is I don't know what it looks like after this year. So, he's looking good now. That's great. But I mean, Bridgewater is coming back probably next year. So who's he going to have a rapport with? Let's not forget that last year they invested a first-round pick into a wide receiver. So they've got 3 guys that they're going to try to get Treadwell more involved. That's going to come at the expense of somebody.
Well, they just re-signed Adam Thielen over the offseason too, so I don't think it's going to be Adam Thielen that's leaving town.
Yeah. I
mean,
mean, I'm not saying
way outperformed his draft value.
Well,
for the
I'm
most
not
part,
necessarily saying that they're going to get rid of somebody, but it's going to come at the expense of somebody. They've got to make that draft pick worth something, because I don't know. I don't know what their plan is for Treadwell, but I don't think that it's time to give up on him yet either.
2 or 3 year training wheels, and then
I mean, but the thing is that we were saying the exact same thing about Aguilar. We were saying the same thing, and on his 3rd season, now all of a sudden, they put him in the slot, which honestly, that's where Treadwell belongs anyway. He's supposed to be more of a possession guy anyway. I don't know. Are they doing Thielen out of the slot, or is he more down the field?
I think Diggs is more in the slot.
Oh, really? Okay. I have not watched a single second of Minnesota at all, so I have no clue what they're running.
Yeah, the Thielen's the more downfield guy who's getting kind of – I mean, Diggs has gotten some of that, but Thielen's got a lot of downfield passes.
But, well, I mean, I'm still trying to kind of figure out some of the Minnesota stuff, because, I mean, they're doing a lot of passing. They can't really run the ball. They can only pass. So
Well, let's move on to the tight end position. I got a couple names that I want to talk about. That one would be a Zach Ertz. This is a guy that I know we've all talked about. It's just we feel like we didn't think we'd see anything out of him. To be honest with you, we just thought he'd be the same old. And every year we're like, he's going to blow up. He's going to blow up. Well, this year he finally did.
Yeah, this is his year. Like, this is the year Carson Wentz is finally coming across, and Zach Ertz, Nelson Aguilar, all these passing game options in Philly. It's been great. Zach Ertz, his biggest thing, he's always blown up at the end of the season. He's always gotten these like 12 catches for 120-yard games at the end of the season. But now he's putting it together consistently, and he's getting touchdowns. He's had 4 straight games with a touchdown now.
Yeah.
His consistency, like, is he the other than Gronk, is he the number 1 tight end? So number 2 tight end, I should say.
Yeah. Hands down.
I say right now going forward, yeah.
I think you have to start him even over Kelsey. Like,
yeah. Yep. I think that they are comparable. I think that Ertz is just a little more consistent right now. Yeah. And so you go with Ertz because, they're like Kelsey has legitimately had like forgettable games this year, and Ertz just hasn't. He's just, if even when he only has gotten a few catches, there's at least a touchdown in there. So
I love what I see.
Yep. All right. Yep. And then one of those guys that we weren't expecting at all, not even, I mean, it was a rookie. He was on some radars, but like I said, dynasties or deeper leagues, he was on the radar. Evan Ingram. What do you guys thought? What do you guys think?
Well, I think Evan Ingram, he was drafted to be that number 1 tight end in New York, which was something they've been missing the last couple of years. And with Eli getting older, he needs that warm blanket because he's getting older, and that's what older people want. They want a warm blanket. So this cozy security blanket.
Uncomfortable. A warm blanket. That was so uncomfortable.
So that's what Evan Ingram is. He's that warm security blanket for Eli, and it's especially with him force feeding Odell Beckham, it's opening up the offense a little more. Odell Beckham's no longer there now. So now who's the number 1 target? It's Evan Ingram. So
he's the only player left.
Exactly.
Last man standing.
And it's been like that the last 2-3 weeks, and teams know this, yet they still are getting production out of Evan Ingram. He's getting touchdowns and receptions and yards.
So obviously he's a must start this year, but when they get Odell back, and if I don't know if they're going to cut ties with Brandon Marshall or what, Sterling Shepard, what are we doing for the future? Are we in the tight
I would probably make him a top 6 to 8. I think he's going to be drafted as almost like that Zach Ertz range from this year.
Right off the bat, I'm going to have to correct you, Van Cleef, because Odell Beckham is going to be an Eagle next year.
Oh.
Other than that, no. But like the thing is that honestly, he is a tight end, and for a tight end to be this involved, and now granted, I understand that a lot of that is kind of like forced upon him, but when a tight end is one of the hardest positions to be effective early. And so, you're not just like it's not just catching the ball. You're in a lot more blocking assignments. You're a lot in pass coverage and in run coverage. Like you're constantly involved in those things. And the fact that he is able to be a part of things this early in his career is a good sign for things to come. And I completely agree with Brent that you're looking at him is definitely a top 10 tight end. And, there's usually only 5 or 6 tight ends that are like truly worth having and like kind of building your team with. And I think that he's going to be one of those guys.
And lucky for the Giants, they don't block anyway for their quarterback or running backs.
Sure.
He just goes out for pass catches and gets them.
Yeah.
He does. He just like a blanket. He just wraps it around.
Warm blanket.
Warm.
Love it.
Just better than a wet
Such a warm, moist blanket.
Rising roster star.
Just wrap your arms around him. All right. So thank you guys for listening. That wraps up our shows. We hope that this information gives you the tools you guys need going forward. So if you guys are doing great in your league or you're doing not great in your league, but just kind of give you these questions and what to do with these players going forward. So we really hope we give you some insight to that. Tune in next week. We got some more exciting new stuff to talk about, and we'll have a lot more information to going on forward. So have a good night.